What have I told you? Like a 2,500-year-old Chinese philosophy text could perfectly explain maybe the biggest, most shocking NFL trade of 2024.
Yeah, it sounds like a stretch on the surface for sure.
Totally. But today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're diving deep into the Micah Parsons blockbuster trade. I mean, this thing sent just massive shockwaves across the football world.
Oh, absolutely. It was everywhere.
Imagine, you wake up on a regular Tuesday morning, you're scrolling your newsfeed, and bam, there's this headline that just feels, well, unreal. Micah Parsons, the guy everyone thought was untouchable, the absolute cornerstone of the Dallas Cowboys defense, suddenly traded away.
Gone. Just like that. After everything.
Exactly. So our mission today is to really understand this huge $188 million trade. And we're not just going to look at the modern sports stuff, the analytics, the contracts, the insider reports.
Which are important, of course. The details matter.
Definitely. We'll pull from ESPN, The Athletic, all those sources. But we're also going to look at it through the lens of this surprising, timeless wisdom from the Tao Te Ching.
We've got some great scholarly takes on that, plus the hard numbers from places like Over the Cap and Spotrac to ground it.
Right. So by the end of this deep dive, you'll see why, well, sometimes the strongest thing you can do is actually let go. And trust me, you're probably never going to look at high-stakes decisions or maybe even just the rhythm of life the same way again.
And what's really fascinating here, when you look at all these sources together, is how these seemingly totally different worlds, like ancient Chinese philosophy and the hyper-modern, multi-billion-dollar NFL world, they actually offer these profound insights that line up.
It's uncanny.
It really is.
Yeah.
This isn't just about football, X's and O's, or even contract law. It's about uncovering these universal patterns. Strength, weakness, expansion, contraction, stuff that applies way beyond the football field.
Yeah.
It really shows how enduring that wisdom from texts like the Tao Te Ching is. It reveals stuff about human nature, about power dynamics, strategic thinking, things that just haven't changed much despite, thousands of years and different cultures.
So these principles aren't just nice metaphors.
No, they're like fundamental truths playing out right in front of us on this massive public stage. Pretty incredible when you think about it.
Okay, so let's just paint the picture of how truly astonishing this trade was. All the reports confirm this. Micah Parsons, this is the player everyone saw as the absolute centerpiece for Dallas.
The undisputed guy on defense.
They built their whole scheme around him, and he gets traded to the Green Bay Packers. And the cost for Green Bay, it wasn't cheap. Their best defensive tackle, Kenny Clark, plus 2 future first-round picks.
That's a haul. 2 firsts and a Pro Bowl caliber player.
Massive. And look, if you're not maybe a diehard NFL fan listening, let me just underline why this is such a jaw-dropper. Parsons isn't just a good player. He's elite. Generational, maybe? A real force of nature.
Oh, absolutely. Game record potential on every snap.
So the stats back this up, right? NFL.com, Pro Football Focus, they all show it. In just 4 seasons, Parsons piled up, 52.5 sacks. That's incredible production.
Almost unheard of for someone that young playing at different positions, too.
And get this, he's only the second player in the entire history of the NFL to get at least 12 sacks in each of his first 4 seasons.
Wow. Okay, who's the other one?
Reggie White.
The Reggie White. Minister of Defense.
The Minister of Defense himself. Hall of Famer, one of the absolute greatest defensive players ever. That's the kind of company Parsons was keeping. He was operating at that truly elite level. Yeah. A legitimate Defensive Player of the Year candidate, every single year. He wasn't just getting sacks, he was disruptive. He changed how offenses had to plan for the Cowboys entirely.
He dictated protections, schemes, everything.
To a lot of people, he was the Cowboys' defense. He was the symbol, that kind of unwavering beacon of hope for a team, desperate to get back to championship glory.
And if we connect that to the bigger picture, like the sports business analysts were saying, a trade like this, it's not just moving pieces around, it's seismic. It fundamentally changes the whole future for both teams.
Totally shifts the landscape.
Parsons wasn't just, like you said, a player for Dallas. He was a symbol. He embodied that ferocity, that relentless motor, the sheer potential they had on defense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So him leaving, it wasn't just losing stats or a key guy. For a lot of fans, it felt like losing their identity, maybe even a betrayal of the hope he represented. And it was definitely a clear, painful maybe, but clear signal of the strategic shift from the Cowboys front office.
You saw it online immediately, the fan reaction.
Oh yeah, social media, fan forums, call-in shows.
Yeah.
It exploded. It was immediate, it was visceral, deeply emotional. Because he meant more than just the numbers on the stat sheet. This move hit the emotional capital of the franchise hard.
And then there's the contract, the deal Parsons got from the Packers. It's just staggering.
Record-breaking, wasn't it?
Completely. According to Spotrac, over the cap, all the money, guys. It's 4 years, $188 million, with a mind-blowing $136 million guaranteed.
Wow. That's quarterback money. Almost.
Break it down, per year, it's $47 million. Average. That makes him flat out the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history, period.
Higher than any receiver, any edge rusher before him, anyone.
Anyone. Defensive player, running back, wide receiver, tight end. Nobody's ever made that much annually except quarterbacks. Only the QBs are making more than this guy now.
That's a statement.
It's not just a big contract. It's a colossal financial commitment for someone not taking the snaps. It shows the just immense value the Packers put on him and the sheer market-shattering scale of this whole deal. It basically redefines what an elite defender is worth now.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating there, beyond just the eye-popping numbers, is how that massive commitment reflects Green Bay's belief in his power to transform the team, not just his individual stats.
Right, it's about winning.
They clearly looked at him, evaluated his impact, maybe his leadership too, and saw him as the absolute missing piece. The guy who could single-handedly lift their whole defense, turn a team that was already pretty good into a real Super Bowl contender.
Takes them to the next level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not just investing in a pass rusher, it's investing in a championship window. And that immediate, totally opposite fan reaction of the shock and frankly devastation from Cowboys fans versus the pure joy from Packers fans, that just shows the huge emotional weight these deals carry. It goes way beyond the spreadsheets.
Absolutely. For millions of people, this isn't just business, it's personal.
It really is.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting and where, maybe some people listening might think I've kind of gone off the deep end here.
Yeah, bring on the ancient wisdom.
Exactly, because this isn't just a modern sports story. There's this ancient Chinese text, the Tao Te Ching, foundational text for Taoism, right? Usually credited to Laozi, this legendary sage from way back, 5th century BC, somewhere around then.
Long time ago.
And this text seems to have predicted exactly how this whole thing would play out. Specifically, we're looking at chapter 36. It talks about something called the strategy of retreat, or maybe more accurately, just the natural rhythm of things, the ebb and flow.
Okay.
And I want you to really listen to this key part, pulling from a couple of translations and commentaries. That which is to be contracted must first be expanded. That which is to be weakened must first be strengthened. That which is to be cast down must first be exalted. That which is to be taken must first be given.
Okay, yeah. At first listen, it sounds like riddles, right? Paradoxes.
Totally sounds like gibberish, maybe wrong. I promise you, this ancient passage, it doesn't just describe what happened with Parsons and the Cowboys. It perfectly describes it. Once you kind of see this connection, you really can't unsee it. It's almost spooky how well it fits.
So that raises a really important question then.
Right.
How? How can a text from 2,500 years ago speak so directly, so profoundly to a 21st century NFL mega deal?
Right? How is that possible?
Well, I think it's because the Tao Te Ching isn't just about ancient China. It speaks to these universal principles: balance, impermanence, the cycles of power. These things transcend time and culture.
They're always relevant.
Exactly. Philosophers who study this stuff, like the Journal of Chinese Philosophy, they talk a lot about the interplay of opposites, yin and yang. It's this dynamic system where expansion naturally creates the conditions for contraction, where strength, if you push it too far, if it's unchecked, can actually lead to weakness.
So it's like a natural law?
Kind of. It suggests this natural rhythm to everything, a fundamental pattern. And if you understand that pattern, it can give you incredible insight, maybe even predictive power into all sorts of human stuff, personal life, business, and even billion-dollar sports trades.
Yeah.
It's not magic. It's just recognizing these deep underlying truths about how things work.
Okay, so let's connect those ancient dots directly to the Cowboys.
Yeah.
How they kind of, maybe without realizing it, built the very conditions for this whole thing to happen.
All right, let's do it.
So the minute they draft Parsons back in 2021, what do? They immediately make him the centerpiece. He's the star, the guy everyone talks about, the face of the franchise.
No question. He was hyped from day one.
They build their whole defense around his talent, his unique athleticism, his versatility.
Yeah.
So in the language of the Tao Te Ching, they expanded him, they strengthened him, they exalted him.
Put him on a pedestal.
Totally. He quickly becomes this DPOY candidate, a huge superstar, arguably the most impactful non-QB in the whole league, like all the analysts were saying.
He lived up to the hype, too. Produced immediately.
But according to Laozi, that's exactly what happens before the turn. Before something gets contracted or weakened, the Cowboys became maybe too dependent on Parsons. He became so central to everything they did on defense.
Right. He covered up a lot of other potential weaknesses sometimes.
And that very dependence, that concentrated strength they built up, paradoxically, it created this fundamental weakness. He became so crucial, so indispensable, that he also became incredibly expensive to keep. It trapped them in this, like, almost unavoidable financial corner.
Okay. I see the connection.
It wasn't a failure of talent scouting. It was a consequence of just extreme concentration. Too much riding on one guy.
Yeah, and if we connect that to the bigger picture, thinking about it from like a organizational theory perspective, the Cowboys basically created a situation where their greatest strength, Parsons, also became their biggest vulnerability.
Exactly.
By making him so indispensable, they essentially painted themselves into a corner. His success, while great on the field, ultimately made him too expensive to keep alongside their other big contracts, given the NFL salary cap.
The math just didn't work anymore.
Right. And this illustrates that key Taoist idea, a real nugget for you listening. Unchecked expansion. Without being aware of its natural limits, it just inevitably invites contraction. Relying too much on one strong part, no matter how brilliant, makes the whole system kind of rigid. It's more likely to break when that part is threatened or removed instead of adapting.
Yeah, can't bend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Real resilience often comes from like distributed strength and adaptability, not just concentrated power pushed way too far.
So what was that financial trap specifically? We touched on it, but let's lay it out. Spotrac, over the cap, they all reported on this. The Cowboys were already paying Dak Prescott, their star QB, huge money.
Top of the market deal.
And CeeDee Lamb, their elite receiver, got a massive deal too. So adding Parsons' market value into that mix, it meant they were looking at a projected combined total of like $141 million per year for just 3 players.
Wow. $141 million on 3 guys.
It's insane. I mean, think about it. That's more than some teams spend on their entire defense, or maybe even their whole roster outside of a few core guys.
That cripples your ability to build depth.
Totally. It severely restricts what you can do elsewhere. You can't afford quality offensive linemen, depth in the secondary, good special teams players, all the stuff you need to build a complete balanced team that can actually withstand injuries and a long season. It forces you into these really tough choices.
It really highlights that delicate balancing act in modern NFL team building, doesn't it? That constant tension between getting elite, game-changing talent and keeping enough flexibility for the rest of the roster.
You can't have it all under the cap.
Nope. Having superstars is obviously key to competing, but the salary cap is real. It's immovable. So organizations, like all the cap analysts break down, they have to weigh the power of those few superstars against needing depth, needing complementary players everywhere, needing the flexibility to react to injuries or busts or whatever.
It's a puzzle.
It is, and the Cowboys situation just perfectly shows how focusing on individual brilliance, when it hits that kind of financial peak, can create these huge structural problems for the whole team. It forces painful sacrifices somewhere else. It becomes a game of opportunity cost, really.
Okay, now here's where the human drama really kicks in. This leads to what a lot of insiders started calling a toxic relationship.
Right, the contract stuff got messy.
Very messy. So Jerry Jones, the Cowboys owner, he goes public, right? It's reported in the Dallas Morning News and elsewhere. He claims he had a handshake deal with Micah Parsons about his future contract.
Uh-oh. Handshake deals in this league.
Exactly. But here's the real picker, and this is absolutely critical when you look at negotiation tactics.
Right.
He supposedly made this deal without Parsons' agent even being involved.
Wow. Okay, that's unconventional, to say the least. Major breach of protocol.
Think about that. Someone trying to make a massive deal about your career, your money, your future, without talking to the person whose entire job is to represent your interests according to, like, the NFL Players Association rules.
Yeah, that's not how it's done. It undermines the whole process right from the start. It's almost disrespectful to the agent and the player.
Huge misstep. And you could argue a major disrespect to Parsons' professional representation. It just set a really bad tone.
And what's really fascinating there, if you look at it from a negotiation or like conflict resolution angle is the immediate breakdown in trust and communication that happened.
Instantly.
Yeah, not involving the agent who is standard, crucial, legally recognized. It just creates this adversarial dynamic right away. It's not just about the legal side. It's about respecting the process, respecting everyone's role.
It poisoned the well.
It really did. And then those public signs of discontent from Parsons, like the reports of him, literally lying on a training table during games instead of being engaged, that signals a really deep emotional divide. And that kind of divide, history shows, is way harder to fix than just arguing over dollars and cents.
Yeah, money you can usually figure out. Trust is harder.
Exactly. Once that fundamental trust is gone, everything gets viewed through suspicion. It makes finding a solution that works for everyone incredibly difficult, maybe impossible. It stopped being just a business problem. It became a relationship breakdown.
Totally. So Parsons' agent, understandably, rejects this handshake deal. Negotiations completely stall. Parsons starts feeling, undervalued, unheard, frustrated, and he starts showing it.
The training table incident?
Yeah, that image of him reportedly just lying there during games instead of being hyped up on the sidelines like usual, that spoke volumes. It was this clear, silent signal saying, I don't want to be here anymore. This situation is just broken for me.
He checked out, basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And just like you'd expect, looking at conflict resolution studies, the relationship between the superstar and the team got toxic really fast. It all ended, inevitably, with Parsons formally requesting a trade. That was the point of no return.
It moved beyond just money into something deeper, more personal, more emotional.
No doubt. The damage was done.
And this whole situation just powerfully underlines how sticking rigidly to like a perceived deal or your own way of doing things, especially when you try to bypass key channels like the agent, how badly that can backfire in these huge negotiations.
Trying to strong-arm it.
Yeah. Agents are crucial in modern sports. Trying to sideline them, especially on a deal this big, this public, it's almost guaranteed to create conflict, resentment. It escalates things way beyond just the contract terms.
And the public nature of it just fueled the fire.
Absolutely. Those public displays of frustration from both sides probably just dug everyone deeper into their positions, made compromise almost impossible. It effectively created this self-fulfilling prophecy of a toxic, broken relationship. It's a huge lesson. Sometimes trying to control everything means you end up controlling nothing.
Okay, let's bring Laozi back in because his wisdom just perfectly explains how this played out and honestly how it led to the outcome it did. He wrote, "The soft and pliable overcomes the hard and strong."
Okay, soft beats hard.
Connects that straight to Jerry Jones's approach. You watched his press conferences, read the interviews from The Athletic, ESPN. Jones tried to play hardball.
That's definitely his reputation, old school negotiator.
He was rigid, inflexible. It seemed like he was trying to force Parsons into a deal he didn't want based on Jerry's terms, what Jerry thought was right. He took this hard, unbending stance, maybe thought he held all the power as the owner of America's team, thought his will would just win out.
And that raises that key question right from the Taoist view. When does that kind of strength, that rigidity, that hardline stance actually become a massive weakness?
When does it backfire?
Often, it's precisely when it stops you from adapting. Rigidity, like Laozi teaches, it leads to brittle outcomes. Something that looks strong on the surface can just shatter under pressure if it can't bend.
Like a dry branch.
Exactly. Jones's hard approach, maybe meant to show resolve or save money, it actually just closed off options for compromise. It created animosity. That's a classic example of perceived strength becoming a real liability in a situation that needed flexibility.
It goes against that idea of wu-wei, right? Effortless action.
Precisely. It's about aligning with the flow, not forcing against it. So that's a critical nugget for you listening. True strength often isn't about brute force or being unyielding. It's about strategic adaptability, the ability to kind of flow with things.
So what beat him? What won in this high-stakes game?
Flexibility.
Flexibility, adaptability. The soft approach Laozi talked about, the Green Bay Packers, they came into this with a totally different mindset.
They saw an opportunity and were willing to move.
They were willing to bend. They were willing to give up those future assets. They were incredibly flexible both with the draft picks and obviously with that unprecedented contract.
A truly massive financial commitment.
They clearly got that sometimes you have to strategically give a lot to receive something truly game-changing, something that can totally transform your team. They weren't fighting the current, they were riding it.
Yeah, exactly. The Packers understood that real strength in negotiation often isn't about never giving an inch. It's about strategic flexibility, being willing to pivot when a huge opportunity pops up.
Seizing the moment.
Right, by being soft in their approach, meaning willing to concede on big money terms, big draft capital. They got what they ultimately wanted, a generational player. Their adaptability let them navigate all the complexities, the emotions, and land Micah Parsons, whereas the Cowboys' hard approach led to them losing him.
The break.
Yeah, the break. It's just a powerful example of how different philosophies lead to wildly different results when the stakes are this high. They understood that sometimes the path of least resistance, being willing to yield strategically, is actually the strongest path forward.
So let's just recap what the Packers actually gave up to get Parsons. The NFL trade reports detail this meticulously. Kenny Clark. Not just a guy, their best defensive tackle. Highly respected, consistently productive, the anchor of their run defense for years.
Big loss for their D-line, no doubt. Clark is a stud.
Plus, those 2 future first-round picks, 2026 and 2027, those are hugely valuable assets for any team. That's your future talent pipeline, young, cheap players you hope become cornerstones.
Giving up first-rounders is always a big gamble on the future.
Always. And then, on top of all that, boom, they immediately signed Parsons to that record-breaking deal. Biggest ever for a non-QB. $136 million guaranteed. That's a massive, massive financial commitment. It signals they are completely all in.
It really demonstrates a clear, calculated risk, doesn't it? But it seems informed by a deep understanding of what they needed for their specific championship window right now.
They saw their shot.
Yeah. Like the football strategists point out, they prioritized immediate transformative impact.
Yeah.
Getting that Super Bowl contender status now over the maybe longer term, more speculative value of draft picks or keeping a good player like Clark.
Parsons was the key.
They saw him as the key. So their soft approach wasn't weakness. It was a strategic willingness to sacrifice known, valuable assets for something potentially game-changing. It lines up perfectly with that Taoist idea of giving to receive. They identified this huge need elite pass rush and were willing to pay the highest, most adaptable price to fill it, trusting their evaluation of Parsons. It was decisive.
But there's maybe an even deeper layer here, another mistake Jerry Jones made that Laozi also warned about. He wrote, "Just as a fish should not be taken from the deep, the sharp weapons of the state should not be shown to the people."
Okay, what are the sharp weapons in this context?
Not literal weapons, obviously. It represents the sensitive stuff, the negotiation tools, the private talks, the contract details, the strategic levers. All the things that should probably be handled quietly, behind closed doors.
Keep it internal.
Right. Smart leaders, according to this ancient wisdom, keep that stuff under wraps. They work behind the scenes to sort out conflicts, navigate tricky situations without creating a public circus or exposing all the messy details. It's about managing perception, maintaining control, keeping things calm.
And that makes perfect sense from a leadership and strategic communication perspective too. That importance of discretion, especially when the stakes are high.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Crisis communication experts always stress this. Some things are just best handled privately. Not to be secretive, but to control the narrative, stop emotional escalation, and let rational discussions happen without the pressure of public opinion, media frenzy, or angry fans chiming in.
Which can derail everything.
Totally. By making those sharp weapons public, Jones basically invited chaos into the whole negotiation. He lost control of the temperature, the information flow. He turned a private business thing into a public spectacle, which rarely leads to a good outcome.
And what did Jerry Jones do? As everyone covering the Cowboys reported,
He did the opposite.
completely undermined the principle. He made the entire thing public, those weekly radio interviews he does. They became must-listen drama where he'd discuss these private negotiation points.
Oh yeah, those were infamous.
The whole contract dispute became this running soap opera, played out in real time.
Yeah.
Every detail, every hint of disagreement, every stalled talk amplified. It got messy, emotional, personal, instead of being a quiet, professional negotiation about finding common ground.
Showing the sharp weapons.
Exactly. By showing his sharp weapons, Jerry effectively blew the whole thing up. He agitated the fans, the media, and probably most importantly, he agitated Parsons himself. Just fueled his desire to get out. Instead of a quiet resolution, he created this total circus that just got completely out of control.
And connecting that to the bigger picture, looking at effective leadership, making internal stuff public like that, it almost always turns rational business talks into emotional battles. It just jeopardizes the outcome you want.
Makes it personal.
Yeah. The public arena breeds speculation, fuels passion, forces people into corners where they feel they can't back down. Jones's approach Maybe he thought it showed strength or put pressure on Parsons, but instead it was like a self-inflicted wound. Showed how losing control of the narrative, lacking discretion, can just escalate conflict way beyond what was needed. It's like winning a battle of words, but losing the actual war for the player.
And the fallout from this public circus, it was real. It hit hard, not just the team, but the fans.
Oh, definitely.
You saw those viral videos online, right? Little kids, Cowboys fans, just crying their eyes out when they heard Parsons was traded. News outlets covered the fan reaction. People felt genuinely betrayed, hurt.
Like losing part of the family?
Yeah. They lost more than a player. They lost a symbol of the team's future, their hopes for a championship, a relationship that maybe, just maybe, could have been salvaged with some quiet, respectful, professional talk. Instead, it became toxic, irreparable, had to end.
It highlights that human cost, doesn't it? The stuff that spreadsheets and analytics don't always capture. Like sociologists who study sports fans talk about this. GMs and owners, yeah, they focus on cap space, draft picks, stats. But fans, they invest their emotions, their hopes, their identity in these players and teams.
It's deeply personal for them.
It is. These aren't just chess pieces. They're people with lives, families, and millions of fans who form these deep, sometimes irrational connections. Trading a guy like Parsons isn't just a transaction. It's trading away some of that emotional connection, that shared identity, that hope.
The crying kid video.
Exactly.
Yeah. That
video, and Parsons even publicly apologizing later to the kids, it just underlines that these moves have real emotional weight for millions. Managing that public perception, that communication, it's just as vital as managing the salary cap, even if it's sometimes overlooked. The emotional capital of a team is as real as its financial capital.
Okay, let's flip back to the Packers and what they did so right. How they perfectly embodied that give to receive idea from the touted Ching.
The flip side of the coin.
Exactly. We talked about what they gave up. Kenny Clark, their best DT, a guy whose stats and PFF grades were consistently top tier.
Huge impact player.
Those two future first-round picks, 26 and 27, the lifeblood for building future teams. And that massive market resetting contract with all that guaranteed money, these were not small sacrifices.
No, those are major commitments, major assets given up.
But that raises that interesting question about value perception and timing, especially with championship windows.
Yeah, the Packers clearly did their homework, looked at their roster, the league landscape, and made a calculated bet.
What was the calculation?
Well, analysts suggest they decided an elite pass rusher like Parsons was worth that huge price tag, the money, the picks. They saw him as the missing piece, the catalyst.
Get them over the hump.
Exactly. History shows championship teams often have either an elite QB or an elite defense. Ideally both. They've got Jordan Love showing real promise at QB.
Looking like the guy.
Right. So getting Parsons decisively shores up that elite defense side of the equation. It signals a very focused, very aggressive, all-in strategy to maximize their chance to win now, while Love is still ascending and relatively affordable. It wasn't just buying talent, it felt like buying a direct path to contention.
And what did they receive for making those huge concessions?
The prize.
A prize. Micah Parsons. A generational talent right at the absolute peak of his powers with years of elite play still ahead. And like all the commentators and analytics agreed, this move instantly made them legit Super Bowl contenders.
Filled their biggest need with arguably the best player available.
Gave them that defensive game record they needed to pair with Jordan Love. They didn't just get a player, they got a potential dynasty maker, or at least a serious window opener.
A true catalyst, like you said.
But the Packers did something else too, something really smart and symbolic that went beyond just the contract numbers, showed they understood the human side of this.
That was that.
They totally embraced Parsons, made him feel genuinely valued, wanted, right from day one. They gave him the #1 jersey.
#1. But isn't that usually retired? Or
Exactly. It was retired by the Packers. A sacred number in their history hadn't been worn since, 1926.
Wow. They unretired a number for him.
Yes. That's not just assigning a number. It's a massive statement. An almost unprecedented gesture. It basically told Parsons, you're not just another guy. We're willing to break almost a century of tradition for you.
That's a powerful message.
Huge message of respect, commitment, signaling he's that vital, that indispensable to their future. It bids instant loyalty, an emotional connection that, frankly, money alone can't buy.
That's a brilliant example of how that soft approach, when it's thoughtful, can be incredibly powerful and strategic.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like leadership experts talk about, communicates respect, unique value, a willingness to bend the rules, stuff money can't always convey. It tells Parsons he's genuinely desired, a cornerstone, not just a hired gun.
More than a transaction.
Exactly. That kind of non-financial commitment can be huge for attracting and keeping top talent. Creates a real sense of belonging, reinforces the money investment. It's about building a real relationship, weaving him into the team's fabric, not just signing papers. Acknowledges the emotional side of things.
And this whole saga, it really wasn't just about football X's and O's, was it? That's why it grabbed everyone. It hit on all those big themes that make sports and life so compelling.
Loyalty, money, emotion.
Strategy, legacy.
Yeah.
All of it. And think about it from the fan angle. The Cowboys are America's team. Most followed, most analyzed, most loved or hated team out there.
Huge, passionate fan base.
So trading away your best defender, the heart and soul of that unit, it feels like a deep personal betrayal to millions. It's like, imagine the Lakers trading LeBron in his prime, or the Patriots trading Brady before the dynasty really took off.
Some players just transcend the game. They become symbols.
Exactly. They embody what the team represents, the hope, the identity, the dreams of the fans. Losing Parsons wasn't just a roster adjustment. For many, it felt like the team gave up on hope itself.
And that really speaks to that complex mix, right? The cold, analytical business decisions colliding with these really deep human emotions.
It's messy.
It is. GMs, owners, they're looking at cap hits, draft value, PFF grades. Fans. They're investing their hearts, their time, sometimes part of their identity into these guys.
It's their team.
Right. Mm-hmm. These aren't just assets on a balance sheet. They're people connected to millions of other people through passion. So when you trade a player like Parsons, you're messing with that connection, that shared identity, that fan hope.
Those crying kid videos again.
Yeah, they just drive home that the emotional capital is real. Yeah. It's impactful. It's something leaders in sports have to manage just as carefully as the finances.
So let's dig into those cold, hard numbers again for a second, because they really show the corner Dallas was in. Parsons got that $136 million guaranteed from Green Bay. Just astronomical money.
Life-changing, generational wealth.
But for the Cowboys, like, the cap experts broke down, keeping him meant those three guys, Prescott, Lamb, Parsons, would potentially eat up almost 40% of their entire salary cap down the road.
40% on three players.
Yeah. In the NFL, with the hard cap, you just can't do that and realistically build a complete competitive team around them. There's no money left.
No money for the trenches, the secondary depth.
Exactly. All the crucial stuff you need to survive a 17-game season, deal with injuries. It forces an impossible choice, a zero-sum game. You have to rob Peter to pay Paul, basically.
So the Cowboys were really grappling with this fundamental problem of modern team building, weren't they?
Stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah. Having three elite guys like that is amazing, but the financial reality of the cap means that concentration of money has to lead to big sacrifices elsewhere. So their gamble strategically was betting they could maybe generate enough pass rush some other way.
Vet committee. Drafting well.
Yeah, maybe. And that maybe fixing their run defense, which had been a problem for years, would actually be more impactful overall, even without Parsons wrecking passing plays.
Plugging that hole.
Right. It's like some team-building philosophies argue it's a bet on collective strength, distributed talent, being more resilient than relying on one super expensive, brilliant individual. They chose to deconcentrate that power, hoping for more overall balance.
And what did Dallas actually get back for making that incredibly tough call?
Kenny Clark and picks.
Right. Kenny Clark, he's 28, consistently one of the better defensive tackles in the league, gets good grades. He's definitely not Micah Parsons in terms of flash or maybe overall impact.
Different type of player. Run stiffer, primarily.
But he directly addresses that huge, long-standing need. The Cowboys have been gashed by the run for years, especially in big games, playoffs. It killed them. Clark is exactly the kind of guy who can shore that up, plug that gaping hole.
Fills a clear need. And the picks.
And they got those two future firsts, 2026 and 2027. If they hit on those picks, draft well. Theoretically, that could turn into multiple good, young, cheaper players, build a broader, more balanced roster instead of everything riding on one super expensive star. It's a long game strategy, trading immediate splash for future flexibility.
And that really throws the contrast in philosophies into sharp relief, doesn't it?
Totally different approaches.
The Cowboys are clearly playing the long game now, betting on depth, strategic drafting, building maybe a more balanced team that isn't so reliant on one guy eating up the cap. But the advanced analytics present that really stark counterpoint. When Parsons was on the field, Cowboys defense,
yes,
top of the league. When he was off the field, they were kind of bad. Among the worst sometimes.
Wow, that big a difference.
That's what some models showed. So it raises that huge question. Can a collection of good players, even if they fill needs like Clark does, really replace the singular game-changing impact of one truly great disruptive player like Parsons?
That's the gamble.
That is the absolute heart of their gamble. And it's going to be fascinating to watch these next few seasons, see how these two opposing strategies play out on the field. It's a real-world experiment.
And this trade, it didn't just happen out of nowhere, right? It feels like part of this bigger trend happening across the league, across sports, really. Player empowerment.
Oh, absolutely. It's undeniable.
We've seen star quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, basically force their way to new teams, dictating where they want to go.
Yep. Change the QB landscape.
We saw star receivers, Antonio Brown, DK Metcalf, demand new deals or trades and often get them. Now we're seeing elite defensive players like Parsons doing the same thing.
The power shift is real.
Players are realizing they have more leverage than ever. Why? Well, several things. Social media gives them a direct line to fans. They can control their own message, bypass traditional media.
Build their own brand, their own platform.
Exactly. Guaranteed contracts, while still not fully guaranteed for everyone, give them more financial security. Shifts some risk from them to the team. And let's face it, NFL careers are short and brutal. They can't afford to waste prime years on a team that isn't serious about winning or isn't going to pay them what the market says they're worth.
It's a fundamental shift in the labor management dynamic, for sure.
It really is.
And that raises this important question about just the evolving landscape of pro sports, doesn't it? Way beyond just the NFL. 20 years ago, a trade like this, driven so openly by player power and desire, much rarer, almost unthinkable maybe.
Teams held all the cards.
Pretty much. The power balance was heavily skewed towards the teams. Now, it's definitely shifted. Like sports law journals discuss this, teams have to adapt to this new reality. Elite players, especially with short career spans, are increasingly going to dictate terms and destinations.
Adapt or get left behind.
Exactly. Teams that resist this, maybe like the Cowboys did with their hardline stance, they might find themselves at a real disadvantage again and again when it comes to getting and keeping the very best talent. It's a new era. Flexibility isn't just nice, it's necessary.
So Parsons basically laid down the gauntlet, right? Pay me what I'm worth, give me a real shot to win, or I'm out.
And he had the talent, the leverage, the market demand to back it up.
He did. And the Packers, they're clearly pushing all their chips in, going all in for winning now. They've got Jordan Love, who looks like he could be the real deal at QB. And now they add arguably the best, most disruptive defensive player in the game.
That's a potent combo.
If Love keeps developing, and Parsons plays like he always has, the Packers could be serious Super Bowl contenders for the next 4 years. It's a calculated, aggressive move, a real statement of intent to maximize this window they see.
And it represents that stark philosophical contrast we talked about. Packers, aggressive, all in now, leveraging assets for immediate contention around their QB and new defensive star.
Cowboys,
taking a totally different path. Betting on depth, future picks, building a more balanced team, maybe sacrificing immediate dominance for long-term flexibility.
2 totally different bets on how to win.
Exactly. And it highlights that ongoing debate in sports. Is it better to concentrate your resources on a few truly elite, potentially cap-straining superstars, or build a broader, more resilient roster that can maybe withstand losing one key piece? The next few years are going to give us a really compelling answer watching these two teams.
Okay, so you might be listening to all this and thinking, all right, fascinating NFL drama, ancient philosophy, but what does this have to do with my life? You're probably not, a pro athlete negotiating 9-figure deals.
Yeah, probably not.
But these principles we've been digging into, the ones from Laozi, played out by multi-million-dollar teams, they're actually universal truths.
They really are.
The idea that strength, pushed too far, becomes weakness. That flexibility almost always beats being rigid. That sometimes you genuinely have to give up something you have now to get something you really need later. These are deep lessons that apply everywhere, not just on a football field.
So let's try and make that connection really practical. Some actionable takeaways for you listening.
Yeah, okay. First, think about your own career for a sec. Is there something, a role, a skill, a way of doing things that you're holding on to so tightly, maybe because it was a strength, that it's actually holding you back now? Stopping you from growing or seeing new possibilities.
Like your personal Micah Parsons situation.
Exactly. Identify that area in your work or life where you've put so much focus, so much reliance that it's become maybe a single point of failure or just too costly to maintain. How could you strategically let go a bit or diversify to build more resilience?
Good question to ponder.
Or think about a project, maybe a business idea. Are you being so inflexible, so hard in your approach when you hit roadblocks or the market shifts that you're missing chances to adapt and evolve?
Sticking to the plan no matter what.
Yeah. What could a soft approach look like there? Being willing to give a little on one thing to gain a bigger advantage elsewhere, or being ready to pivot your whole strategy if the situation demands it.
That adaptability again.
And then think about relationships. Personal, professional. Are you trying so hard to control a situation or a dynamic, maybe needing to be right all the time, that you're actually pushing people away, creating tension or toxicity instead of collaboration?
Forcing things instead of letting them flow.
Right. Where could yielding a bit or giving thoughtfully, maybe letting go of the need to win every argument or giving someone the benefit of the doubt or making a small concession actually create more harmony, more productivity, letting things flow more naturally, like the Tao Te Ching suggests.
Building goodwill instead of barriers.
Exactly. Even just in your personal habits. Have you maybe expanded a certain habit? Maybe something that feels like a strength, like being super organized or intensely focused so much that it's now weakening other parts of your life? Leading to burnout or neglecting other important things?
Finding balance.
Yeah. How can you wisely contract that habit a bit or balance it better with other needs to find a rhythm that's more sustainable, more productive in the long run? It's always about that balance and flow, not just extreme, unchecked expansion in one area.
And what's just so profound here is how the Tao Te Ching has been teaching these exact lessons for literally thousands of years. Why? Because they work. They're not just like trendy ideas, they're enduring truths.
Timeless wisdom.
Totally. They apply just as accurately to ancient Chinese philosophy as they do to modern NFL trades, to building an empire or just building a more fulfilling life. The wise person in this Taoist view doesn't try to fight these natural patterns, expansion, contraction, strength, weakness. They try to understand them.
And work with them.
Exactly. Work with them. Align your actions with that natural flow. And that ability to adapt, to know when to be strong and when to be soft, when to hold on, and crucially when to let go, that is just a timeless skill for being resilient, for finding success in whatever you're doing. It's the wisdom of knowing how to bend so you don't break.
So, wrapping this all up, what does it all mean? The Micah Parsons trade, it's clearly more than just a football story. It's this living, breathing, $188 million example of these ancient principles in action.
Balance, flexibility.
The cycle of strength and weakness. We saw how the Cowboys built Parsons up so incredibly high, made him so strong, so central, that the only way left from that extreme expansion was down, was contraction, led inevitably to him leaving.
The exaltation before the fall, almost.
Kind of. And conversely, we saw how the Packers won this round, not by being rigid or trying to dominate, but by adapting, by being willing to strategically give a lot, picks, money, tradition, even to receive that generational talent they needed so badly.
The soft overcoming the hard.
In the end, yeah, the soft, adaptable, wisely yielding approach beat the hard, inflexible, maybe overly controlling one. It's a lesson that just keeps repeating itself, playing out right here in real time.
And that leaves us with a really important, maybe overarching question for you, the listener, to take away from all this. Now that you've seen these patterns, expansion leading to contraction, rigidity inviting breakage, leading to receiving, play out so clearly, so publicly, so dramatically, how will you apply that wisdom in your own life, in your own decisions? Think about how understanding these fundamental cycles and the power of strategic flexibility could lead you to greater wisdom, more adaptability, and maybe ultimately more success and just well-being in everything you do, from your job to your family. Start looking for these patterns everywhere. You might be surprised how often you see them and how understanding them helps you navigate the world a little better.